gymnastics. As far as the wrestling did, what I did was I intimidated a lot of people because I didn't give a
big gold and a big
We've only had two people late. Him and Bam.
Oh man, I'm one of them.
You and Bam Bam. Jerry Penders, Bam Bam Penders, baby.
Guy looks like a nerd.
I look like a nerd.
Normal hair.
I know.
It's like
I'm an old man. I'm finished.
Well, that's what he looked like when he wrestled. He doesn't look any different.
He was a dork then too. Yeah.
Double. It was a fucking morphed into even more of a dork.
Hey, we're recording. We're live here at Live the Studios. Live the Studios.
Gotcha.
Is that a protein drink you're drinking or coffee? Or
It's a coffee protein thing.
Oh, I see. He's
Probably a beer.
He's still in the health kick, you know.
With Jason, Gavin, the professor, the original professor of professional wrestling.
I don't know about that. I'm sure I ripped that off from somebody.
Probably so. Jason,
Yeah.
Gavin, Garrison. And what was your name at Fletcher something? What is it?
Fletcher Chase. Dusty gave me that because our first day, it was like everybody goes and does a promo. He gets a sense of a character. And he said my kind of smarmy, sarcastic shithead persona is like, oh, it reminds me of that movie Fletch. I was like, oh, that's one of my favorites. And then he kind of gave me the name and he's like, oh, this name nobody will ever like you. I'm like, well, that helps. Good.
Fletcher Chase. Were you a big Fletcher Chase fan?
What a wretch.
I didn't know what a Fletcher Chase was at the time. I didn't get to see it. It wasn't on TV. I know the Dream had any kind of character reference that he'd come up with, that he'd steal it from the professor. Did he have you make a lot of stuff? You make recommendations for your character, your name, etc. And if it was any good, Dusty would say, "Well, I'll just give it to Cody," like he did. Steal it, and Cody get the run. He didn't even want to be a wrestler; he wanted to be an actor. But his Jason Garrison come on his own dime, come from the Midwest, come on down, hanging out with Bar Life, get drunk, learn his craft, doing this, doing that. Eventually, got signed to a contract. Went down and kicked Butte. Hell yeah!
I guess we don't need to do any more of this interview. Rip just told the whole life story.
That's it.
Oh,
that's all of it right there. Better than I could have told it. That's for sure.
That's awesome. So we don't really have a script. We don't plan a lot of stuff out. I did for Gail Kim though. She was on time, and I did plan out some questions for her. We just got done filming episode 27, and instead of prepping for your interview, we did some YouTube live, some TikTok live, stuff like that. So now we're here, ready to go. I do like to cover a lot of firsts, though. First class, first training, first match, that kind of shit. Were you a wrestling fan all along? Did you know as a kid that you wanted to be a wrestler? Or did you just somehow all of a sudden, hey, I think I'm going to try this wrestling thing?
No, I was always a fan. I grew up in St. Louis. My dad was a big fan from wrestling at the Chase days. So he used to go down there. That was what him and his buddies would do. So when he was super into it from when he was a kid. So I think he took me to my first show, I think at the St. Louis Arena in like 1990. And that was I was like 7 and that was it for me. So I was like hooked. I was already watching it on TV. I was a fan. But seeing it live was like some different experience altogether. So no, I was always a fan.
Would that have been like a WWF show there? Or was
it was a WWF show. Yeah. It was summer of 1990. So it was like right before, I guess that would be SummerSlam for them or whatever. But it was a WWF show. They would come through the arena back in the day all the time. Wrestling at the Chase, I think, was pretty much done by that point in the late 80s, early 90s. But yeah, and then after that, it was like once I was able to like drive and go places with my buddies, then we'd go to every show that was in town.
Did you ever wrestle in St. Louis, Rip?
Yeah, I also wrestled at the Chase.
That's amazing.
I wrestled at the Chase. Now check this thing out. I'm working for Dick and I'm school teaching, but on Friday night I took off and worked Danville, Illinois. Then I drove all night. Bruiser arranged for me to work TV in Kansas City. And then I drove up and worked St. Joe TV that night. Then the next day I drove to St. Louis and worked 2 tapes. I wrestled Ric Flair and Dick Murray. Wow. So there I was, as green as grass. But the next day I walked into Union City High School and I told them, take my sick days, my personal leave days. I ain't coming back next year, and go fuck yourself.
That's all. That's amazing.
And I made twice as much money on that loop than I did teaching school.
I imagine. Yeah.
And I had some sexual favors from some Riazats. So it didn't get any better than that.
Perfect. That's amazing. So was it at that time, was that still getting to St. Louis? Was that still like a pretty high level in terms of like where it ranked in the territories? Was that still like St. Louis? At one
time, see, St. Louis wasn't a territory. St. Louis is Bob Geigel owned points in it, Pat O'Connor in points in it, and I think Muchnick owned the points in it. So they were all business partners. They'd use the Kansas City talent, but then they'd have guys that would come in all the time, like Bruiser Brody, Flair would come in, Mulligan would come in, the big stars would come in. Dick the Bruiser was there about every third show, and he was real good buddies with Muchnick, and he was a big time player in St. Louis for at least 20 years.
Wow,
he was legendary there.
Everybody there knew about it. Like anyone that I told that I was wrestling, they would be like, "Oh wow, yeah, I remember going to Wrestling at the Chase or watching it on, it was on KPL, a local station in St. Louis. They used to be on all the time, so everybody knew it, whether they were fans or didn't want to admit they were fans or just casual. They all knew it, which was crazy. It was cool.
And for years, St. Louis was one of the best wrestling cities in the world, and Muchnick kept it as legitimate as you could.
Wow.
Yeah, why WWE was doing total cartoon shit.
Yeah.
They were always this straight lace, whatever, and people half-ass believe they really believed in their wrestling. And they had the great wrestling fans there.
Sure. It was like that was like the place to be. I've heard articles and stuff I've read. It was like that would like people would get like dressed up to go to the matches like it was like the theater or something.
Right.
Like that was like the date night was going to wrestling.
Hell yeah. It's awesome. So your first training, was it OVW?
Yeah. My first
now, did you go, you went to like college and shit first though, right?
Yeah. College and shit. Yes, sir. I went to college. Why
did you? Rip made me go to college before I could get into wrestling. So was that a thing? Like, I'm going to go get my degree and then go wrestling. Was that always the plan, or was it,
that was the plan. Yeah, that was a plan. A decent school in St. Louis, got my degree. I did a bunch of theater and stuff too, because like I enjoyed that, but also thought it would help get me in some kind of readiness for wrestling. Cause I was an athlete, but not a super athlete. I wasn't the biggest. I was always tall and skinny. So I was like, while I was trying to put weight on and try to look like a man, I was doing theater and stuff like that too, just to try to get myself unafraid of any sort of performance or unafraid of speaking in front of people and just get myself comfortable with improvisation and that kind of stuff. So I was trying to use that to get me kind of ready because I had no idea what the physical part of the practice is.
This is fucking awesome. This is fucking awesome, Professor. Everybody's got a different story.
That's why I love your podcast, because everybody's got their different where they came from.
It's fucking awesome because you could have been the ultimate physicality, look like Mr. Goddamn Universe, and you fucking shrivel up and die before a fucking microscope or a microphone, and you can't get in front of fucking people. This is fucking awesome. Just keep
I knew that I would be able to, fix and training and everything. I'm like, okay, I can get there in terms of, looking big, getting bigger and getting in myself into shape athletically. But I was like, that's an easier road. Like that's, you can fix your diet and go to the gym and you can get yourself into some kind of half-ass shape. If I'm not paying attention, or if I'm not to a point where I can speak or come up with some character stuff or be interesting, then I'm just going to be like everybody else. So that was kind of what I was thinking when I was going through school.
So was OVW always the plan, or were you looking elsewhere? And then,
I mean, OVW was 4 hours away from me in St. Louis. So Louisville. So I figured, okay, I remember driving out there. I think it was a year after I graduated. I was working. I was trying to save my money. I drove out. I sat in a class, and it was like, wow, this is, I don't know if it was still developmental then or not, but I went to I just watched a class. I called Rip on the phone, and he said, just come check the class out. And this is probably 2006 maybe. And then I was like, oh, wow, this is just unreal. Cause then it's real. You walk in the room and it's like that. Then it's real. Then it's like you made the jump. So I drove up there like in the morning. I caught a class. I drove back to St. Louis after. And then that's when I was like, okay, I got to figure out, I got to get a move going. I got to find an apartment and everything else. And it was just started like that was harder for me like getting there, going to the first class or watching the first class rather than like the move. Cause then it was just like, okay, now I'm committed. I came up here, I checked it out. Now it's time to really put the wheels in motion on how to get to Louisville. Now.
See, I think I might've been the opposite. So when I went to my first class, I didn't go watch a class first. I went to class. Yeah. So when you went and actually watched the class, did that change I obviously didn't change your mind totally, but did you ever think then, holy shit, I just watched this class. It is real now. Maybe this isn't what I want to do. Or after watching
the shit out of me, scared the shit out of me for sure. Just because I was in a room with guys that are already like further along in terms of like, they made the decision. They're already there. Like they're in the class. That to me, it was like just getting into the first class was the hard part. And then everything else, it's like, okay, now you're in the routine. So for me, it was just that first sleep. So yeah, it was terrifying. But watching it, it was like, I remember there was, I caught the practice and then everybody's watching film. And then I was like, man, this is amazing. They're treating this like football. Like they're watching film, they're reviewing, everybody's like paying attention. If somebody's talking in the back, they get yelled at, shut up, or watching tape. And it was, it's like, wow, this is serious. So like, it scared me, but also I was like, oh, okay. So this is just treated like sports. So I was like, okay, so it's just like being back and playing high school football in the sense of you're going to review, you're taking it seriously. You're all in. So
right.
Yeah, it scared the hell out of me, but.
Okay. Take us through your first class that you actually participated in. Was Rip your teacher? Do you remember any of the people there? Do you remember anything about the first day of actual practice?
Yeah, I remember everything about the first day. So Tank Tolan was doing beginner's class then.
Okay.
And I came in and I'm trying to remember, I don't know if anybody was in my beginner's class that ended up sticking around for intermediate. I don't recall. Because like all the guys that I hung out with, you and Blair and Tommy wasn't down there yet, and Zeus, they were already in the kind of intermediate class. So beginner's class, no, it was just like, let's see how bad you want to be here.
Yeah.
You're going to do your 200 squats and everything at the beginning, then you're going to run the ropes and you're going to take your first bump and everything else. Tank was a nice guy. He wasn't doing it to like run anybody out, but he was going to let you know early on. It was, we're going to beat you up and we're going to see if you want to stick around.
How long were you in the beginner class?
I think they did it like 3 months or something like that. I think it was like, that was sort of like what the schedule was. And then you go up to the next
was Rip next or was there one?
Yeah, Rip was next. So Tank had the beginner's class for a bit. Then Joey came in. Seth was kind of doing it too a little bit at the time. All those guys were different teachers, different styles, but all amazing. And then Rip was the next one. Yeah, Rip.
So probably no contract then, I would say.
Oh, I think the contract guys were gone.
They were gone. Yeah, I think they would have been gone at that time. All right, well, take us into Rip's class. What did you think of Rip? Give us some interaction with Rip Rogers. I mean, everybody's got some good Rip stories and good first impressions of Rip.
I mean, there's only one Rip, that's for sure. I don't know. Like I came in and I just tried to keep my mouth shut and tried to watch what was happening around me. I knew that this was the place to be. There was no other. I think when I started researching wrestling schools, it started and stopped with OVW, not just because it was close, but that was like where everybody came out of at the time. That was the place to go. And, back then in the mid 2000s, researching and everything, that was it. And Rip's class was like, that's where you learn shit. That's where you did repetition. And that's where you were told to get the fuck out if you were fucking rotten. If you weren't paying attention, you were going to get your ass kicked. And,
were you ever told to get the fuck out?
Oh yeah. Right. I think everybody was. Yeah.
No, Gail Kim said she wasn't.
Well, Gail Kim is good. I wasn't. I didn't know anything. I should have been told to get the fuck out.
I was told 3 times in one practice.
Damn, that's impressive.
And it was with the contract people. So I had heat upon heat upon heat.
Oh man.
It was awesome. Thanks, Rip.
Yeah. When I was there, the contract guys were gone. So it was just the guys which was good in a way, because everybody that was there really wanted to be there. It wasn't everybody there was paying to be there, right? Like everybody there was like, this is what I'm paying for. I want to be here. So like, the guys that everybody that I was friends with in Louisville were guys in my training class. I hung out with the same people in practice in the car. at the show, and then, you know, our free time. So everybody was like, it was a really tight knit group because everybody's paying, everybody wanted to be there. Everybody had more or less the same aspirations. It was cool because everybody was kind of like-minded. Everybody came from all these different worlds. You know, Blair was a pro bodybuilder, and Debo had his own business, and everybody came from these different worlds, but everybody was like, had wrestling in common. And we'd sit in the car and talk wrestling, just driving to shows on the weekend before we went back to our, you know, day jobs and everything.
Yeah. I remember some of those practices. I mean, we had like 50 people there, had the mats out, 4 hours, sweating balls. I mean, it was awesome. Now we have some stories outside of wrestling we could tell on this show with me and the professor going out a couple nights, Rip, but I don't think we'll probably want to get into those.
We'd probably get banned again.
Yeah, well.
Oh no.
It'd be the one show my wife tuned in to watch, you know?
Yeah, for sure. No, my wife's like, hey, let me watch that podcast you said you were going to be on. No. We're
not going to get into that. First match. Remember your first match? Was it OVW, DCW? Who was it against? Battle Royal tag?
I was very, very fortunate. And I remember a couple of guys coming up to me, telling me about their first matches after I had mine. Raul, I remember coming up, he's like, man, my first match was at some indie scene somewhere. My first match was against Joey Matthews.
I kind of remember that. Yeah.
And it was my first match. And, you know, he was in terms of like being a great guy, but he very intense, very, very good. He was like very much like the coach. Like, he's like, you're getting in here with me, and I'm, you know, you're going to shut your mouth, listen. And I try to just follow along and remember what I learned. And it wasn't a long match or anything super remarkable. He just he was getting back into he was training guys. He was on the OVW show. And I think he was just, I don't know, for whatever reason, picked me to have a match with, which was awesome. Learned a ton and got my ass kicked and deserved it, but loved it. It was like the thrill, the high after like your first match. And I was lucky because, again, it's on a TV show. It's on our TV show as I had my first match. So it was amazing. I was like floating for days. I remember like, man, now I'm there. Now I had a match. Okay. Now I had a match on our local TV show. So for me, that was everything.
I do actually remember that. That was pretty big. Anytime you can get Joey Matthews as your
sure. Yeah, he's
first
awesome.
opponent. Now, were you the professor then? Was that gimmick established already, or I don't think it was, right?
Think I was trying some things out in practice with promos and everything, and Pops is so creative that once I started, Pops was our like resident genius writer,
Ben Hameen
guy, manager. I'm sure he's been on, but Ben Hameen. He was working with me on some stuff, just trying to be different. So no, it wasn't established then. It was just regular guy having his first match against an established pro. The kind of smart ass, better than everybody's professor type gimmick started coming later. Started working on it after that.
Now, do you watch AEW wrestling?
I have not with any regularity. I haven't.
You know, Serena Deeb stole your gimmick.
Yeah. She's. I'm sure
you know that she's a ripoff of the Professor Gavin Garrison.
Well, she's probably much more of a professor at it than I was at the time.
Does that piss you off at all?
Myself, the professor. What balls?
Does that piss you off at all?
It does not. It does not. I am very, very happy for Serena. She deserves all the success in the world.
Now, you already said it, you know, everybody coming from different worlds and that kind of stuff. I always thought, you know, Rip always says like, hey, if you're in wrestling, at least back in the day, you got to be like missing a card. I don't think it really applies to today. And maybe not even when we were in it. I always felt like you were one of the like most normal guys. Like if you want to get into normal, are you really a normal? I mean, you went to college, you know, that stuff. Did you feel like a normal guy there? Like I'm more normal than these other people? I mean, I think I was kind of a normal guy, and then
I thought you were a normal guy. I was
started
intimidated by you.
Not normal, I think, as time went on, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was a pretty normal guy, but then once you're in the car with these guys, everybody's a normal guy. Like Blair didn't look normal because he was the biggest human being I'd ever seen at that point, but as a bodybuilder. But no, once you're in the car and you're riding around, you're hanging out, everybody kind of becomes a normal guy. I didn't think anybody was too wacky. I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't know. Like Tommy was a normal guy. You were a normal guy. Zeus Adonis was. I don't know. I mean, maybe not when I first walked in, but everybody kind of was just like, yeah, it's just a guy who wrestles, has a job, wrestles on, in his spare time.
Do you think your people were normal, Rip?
What people were normal?
Your wrestling people you hung out with, rode in the car with. Like when you're riding in the car with the Samoans or Playboy with Buddy Rose and Savage. I mean,
that's different.
Usually everybody was in character then.
Even in the car?
Yeah.
Wow.
He'll be the bushwhackers. Hey, mate, how about that? Fucking hell, lights on, mate, hey? You're kind of biggin'? You come from Wigan, right?
Maybe we all seem normal because we hadn't been around long enough and everybody was sort of experimenting with what their persona was or what they had to offer. So there was a little bit of their old self blend, like bleeding into what they were trying to do from a gimmick.
Yeah, I guess too. I guess it would depend. Like, I don't know. I rode around sometimes with like Roadkill and Brewski and Jimmy, and you start getting into some more characters, and you're like,
those are wacky guys. I was gonna say I would never classify Brewski as anything close to normal.
And then, well, he's like a normal guy now, I think, personal trainer or something. But I remember going to like Kentucky Kingdom or whatever. We did those Six Flags. I think Roadkill had like the free passes somehow or something. And one day it was like me and Roadkill and Blair and Brewski and Zeus. And we're going around the water park at like Kentucky Kingdom. And I was like, holy shit, I felt like I'm the most normal. I mean, everybody was just staring at, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It was pretty wild. And that's what it's like.
You're used to being everybody's freak and you're just hanging out with freaks and that's normal to you.
Yeah. But
that's a much better way of saying it. Yeah. You're just hanging out with these crazy characters, and it's just like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What's that guy doing? That's just Brewski. He always does that. That's just who he is. He's just that crazy guy.
Who were you living with when you moved to Louisville? Did you live by yourself?
I just lived by myself. Yeah, I had a little shitty apartment over by U of L. Lived over there, and then was working selling advertising for the Courier Journal, and that was kind of like my job there. Just basically like making phone calls in the office and not cold calling. I never could do that. I don't have that disposition, but basically just kind of like taking care of people that put ads in the newspaper and that kind of thing. It was good enough. It was all I needed. 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Get to practice, get to the shows on the weekends, everything else.
So fast forward, you're an OVW, become the professor.
Yes.
Great talker, getting better in the ring, all that good stuff. How long were you there? How long were you in OVW total time? And then how did the tryout? I don't know if I remember the tryout, if I was at that tryout. Like getting signed with WWE, how did that come about?
I think I was a year and a half, maybe there. Not long enough. I'll say that. Not long enough at all, but a year and a half. The tryout was just like, I think it was like a random win. I remember it was the middle of the week during the day because I called in sick. I took off or whatever. And
was it at the Davis Arena? Was it one of those?
Yeah. And it was everybody like you got in a long line. Everybody did a promo. And then everybody, because I remember like during the tryout, you would see some guys come in that weren't in practice or on any of the shows.
Oh yeah, everybody came out. Yeah,
everybody came out of the woodwork, right? And then they broke everybody up into like there was like 3 or 4 6-man or 8-man tag matches. Everybody like got in the ring a little bit, did a few things. Johnny Ace was there. I don't think anybody else. I think it was just Johnny Ace. And he kind of sat at the announce table with Danny and watched the matches and Rip and I watched the promos. Everybody kind of did their best, kind of whatever their character was at the time, no matter how far along they were with like working it or creating it. They just did their best. It was amazing. I didn't expect to get anything out of it. I thought, it's my first tryout, like see what the process is like.
Yeah.
Certainly wasn't, in a room with like you and APOC and all these guys that were really our sort of leaders in the locker room. I thought like, okay, well, this is just a chance to understand what the tryout process is like. And then down the road, hopefully you get another one here, there, whatever. It was just a random Wednesday. And then I think like a week later, they told the folks that got signed that they had a job, and that changes everything.
Who actually told you?
Danny. So I remember Chris Cage kind of like caught me. It was before Wednesday TV. He goes, "Hey, Danny wants to see you in his office." And I went in there, and Ryback was in there And that's when Danny just told me. I thought like Ryback got signed, Cage got signed, Brian, Josie got signed. So I thought like all these guys, okay, well, these guys have been around a long time and a couple of them had already been up there. So I thought, cool. And I didn't think I was going to get it. It was just kind of a shock to me. It was the weirdest thing I've ever.
Oh, I didn't realize that was the one. I remember that day vividly.
Yeah.
Because Cage came in that tag match, like on a hot tag, and there was no heel, and he did like a comeback against nobody. Josie did the promo with all the
promo. Yeah. Great talker.
All the,
I never met him before until that tryout.
Yeah. He was one that came out of the woodwork. He hadn't been there for years, and he shows up and talks about being on steroids and drops the N-bomb a couple times.
Who did that?
Abraham Washington.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I'm on steroids. Look at my body. This is what you should look like. And then he started doing the
don't tell Johnny Ace that.
Yeah, but he did. That was his promo.
I know, it's hilarious. I remember thinking like, what the fuck is this?
And then
I was mesmerized by it.
Ryback had already been hired and fired. And Ryback at that time was doing like DCW, OVW, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember Ryback was reading like, I don't know, maybe the book The Secret or something.
Oh, he was all about that, dude.
But Ryback walks in that morning and he says, I'm getting signed today. Like it's a done deal. I'm getting signed. I didn't know you got signed out of that one. I thought
I got signed with that one. Yeah.
I thought we
all went together. I lived with Ryback in Tampa when we got down there.
Oh, did you really? So how long after they signed you then did you go to Tampa? Were you gone quickly after that?
Man, I think it was like September or October I found out, and I got down there I think they moved us like a couple of weeks before Christmas, because I remember when I got down to Tampa, like half the guys were already gone, just like they gave everybody kind of a break for the holidays. So when I got down there weren't many guys. We would go to the building and kind of work out a little bit, but it didn't officially become like practice until like the following January.
So you said it might have been a little too soon. So when you found out you were getting signed, like what was your thoughts then? Were you like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm getting signed? Like,
totally holy shit moment. Totally like I felt proud and I was ecstatic, but also like I just hadn't been there long enough. I thought like I'm pretty good at the fundamentals. I picked it up pretty quick just because like you're a lifelong fan. Part of it when you're starting practice, Silas, you probably get this too. It's part of it's just like mimic. You're doing the things that you've seen on TV 1,000 times. So you're trying just to do that, to fake it till you make it kind of thing while you're learning everything and learning why you're doing the things that you're doing. So I was okay at that. I think I was getting better. I was just hanging out with all the guys that had been there longer than me, that were better than me, and learning from those guys and having matches week after week after week and feeling like they're getting better. And the talking part I wasn't worried about. I was like, I can do the character stuff. It was just about getting like the why. Why are you doing this at this time in a match? That kind of thing. I was working on. I think too soon, because I think 1.5 years is too soon for anybody to get signed.
I probably agree with that.
Yeah, that's just too soon.
You just need.
What are you gonna do? Tell them no?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They're gonna tell them no.
I don't want that job. Hell no, I don't want it. I'm not ready.
Talk to me in 2 years.
You just go. And I made the best of it, and was proud of it, but also it's just like, you just go. You don't tell them no. You go.
So you get down there, you start, you said maybe not quite yet. So who was all trained down there? Was it Dusty? Who were the teachers? Dusty
was in charge of like anything TV related, characters, everything like that. Like if you like had some semblance of some kind of character, Dusty liked it, then he was going to help you. He was very good to me. No, the trainers, the day-to-day trainers were Dr. Tom ran it, Dr. Tom Pritchard, Norman Smiley. Steve Kern was sort of over all of it. He worked more with the established guys that were kind of back and forth between TV and FCW. But our day-to-day was Dr. Tom and Norman. Those are what are you guys?
I don't know what he's doing. Rip.
Can we have him another program?
What do you mean? Like on again sometime?
Like part 2, the professor.
Well, sure. Yeah. Well, let's finish part 1.
Whatever you guys want. Well, I'll be on time next time. I promise that.
The thing said it was the only.
So we got 10 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
2 minutes. I couldn't.
Am I droning on? Am I being too?
No. You're doing real.
No, you're doing great. Rip. Rip. We're fine, man.
I'll come back whenever you guys want. This is amazing.
No. We're fine.
I was nervous.
No, you're on fire.
No, don't be nervous. Shit, you're on.
I was nervous. Now I'm comfortable. I was nervous.
Nobody watches this damn show. Are you kidding me? Like,
I do. I watched the Gail Kim episode.
We got 1,365 subscribers and none of them watch. So you're fine.
I want you guys to get money off of this.
No, hey, we've made $3.64 so far. So
you got to start somewhere.
After 6 months of work, $3.64. I mean, it don't get
a hell of a show, though.
Don't get no better than that, right, Rip?
Mm-hmm.
So when you were in FCW, were you wrestler? I thought I saw somewhere maybe did you manage for a while too, or wrestler always?
I did kind of all of it. Like when I first got there, it was almost like you're fighting for any kind of ring time on the shows because they had so many guys, and they would sign like football players, reality stars and stuff like that come in, and they would try to rush them into the ring, and you know, there wasn't always room on every card for everybody. But I did a little bit of that. I did some commentary. I did a lot of different things trying to figure out a character, and then, you know, a couple months in, hit a stretch where I was working a lot and wrestling a lot. And then one of my proudest things there had nothing to do with the show, but Dr. Tom, it was almost like it was a badge of honor if they would put you in matches or pair you up to practice with like a new guy or a football player or somebody who didn't know anything. If they paired you up, that meant that they knew they trusted you enough, like your fundamentals and what you could do to work with some of these newer, greener guys. And I was still green, but not as green as some of the guys coming in that had never gone to a practice. But I remember like being there, Rip, if you came out of OVW in Rip's class, you were like, okay, yeah, we can throw him wherever and he'll be all right. Because they did that with me and Cage, and a lot of the guys that were there that were signed again came, if it was like, if you came out of OVW, you were okay. Yeah, he can work with some of these guys that have never been in the ring before, or work with them at practice or something. So
how does that make you feel, Rip?
Every time I listen to these guys, I said, fuck, most of the stuff I don't even remember because it was just another day at work for me. And so many guys went through there, and some guys was there 3 weeks and some guy was there 3 years or something like that. But if you just do as you're fucking told, you will get, I don't have to say anything to you. You'll get good because you're hanging around guys that are better than you and you're getting your reps in. All you got to do is get your reps in and hang around in a positive attitude where everybody's going to work hard. You're going to eat right. You're going to go to the gym together. You're going to love working out. You're going to love wrestling. Then you're going to get in the fucking cars. You're going to fucking talk about everything, and you're going to get so much better, but you don't realize you're getting better. Yeah. Until you leave. Then when you leave, damn, I had a hell of a day. Damn, I didn't know I was that good. All of a sudden, you're like a king in the Valley of the Blind.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. You came out of OVW and you went to FCW. You definitely had an easier time. You know, you weren't, you guys would come in from different places and not everybody fit in. You get fucked with or whatever. But if you came out of OVW, you're like, oh yeah, he's this guy's all right. Yeah. We know we can get in the ring with him and he's not going to hurt us or fuck up, and we can have a half-assed decent match with this guy. He came out of Louisville. So anybody who came out of Louisville is like almost your time was easier, not just with the trainers, but with the boys, because they're like, okay, yeah, this guy, yeah, we know this guy's not a complete fuck up.
You're used to getting yelled at too, aren't you?
Yeah, no, it's training, it's practice, it's class. It's just, you just treat it like class. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, yeah, that's what happens. Yeah, you get yelled at until you do it right. That's coaching. That's just being coachable.
How long did FCW last then? What was the
couple of years? I think I was down there.
And you were wrestling on. Did you wrestle on TV then? Were you in?
I was on their show there. Yeah, I was on their TV show quite a bit that they did down in Tampa. Their version of OVW's TV show. I think they did every Thursday.
So then, how did that come to an end? What was the end result of?
Well, I'm not there anymore.
Well, I understand that, but like, what I'm asking, like, what the hell happened? Like, were you ever on the road? Were you ever thought of being brought up? I mean, you weren't.
Honestly, things were clicking really, really well. Before I got signed, I think it was a random dark match before OVW taping. I had this issue where I was working with these guys, and I'm not going to bring nobody's fault, but I got dropped straight down on my head. And it kind of fucked me up for a while. And it started getting worse when I was there because you're training every single day and the bumps and bumps and bumps every single day, 7 days a week. And I just started having some issues. My body was acting differently than I thought it should. And I had some issues with my hands and some different things, but I was just like, whatever. I didn't tell them before I got signed. So it's like, I'm not going to get any surgery. They're not going to pay for, a serious surgery for a guy in developmental that they got 50 other guys. So I just tried to do it as long as I could. Started doing more talking and commentating and those kind of things. And then they kind of knew it was physically things were fucked for me. And they go, well, we're going to let you go unless you want to stick around and just do commentating or talking. And I was like, no, if I can't do shit in the ring, I don't think I can offer as much. And I just thought I would go because it's like, again, remember, I was in a class with a bunch of guys I got signed with a bunch of guys that had been released already and came back. So I just thought, okay, let me go get my shit together. Let me get fixed. And there's always a chance to come back. I never thought that was the end chapter or whatever, because I just thought, and I also felt like it was all like a blessing being there in the sense that I wasn't ready. I was 1.5 years total training time under my belt before I got signed. So I had a world more to learn. I got better there because you're doing it every single day. But yeah, no, it's just one of those things where that was it.
Well, see, that's why I asked. I had no idea. I had no idea that like you were injured. So, I mean, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but was there ever did you have like a surgery? Was there something?
No, I see. I'm like, now it's like, I'm fine as long as I'm not, I don't have anything I'm 39. I don't have anything that any other 39-year-old probably doesn't have that was athletic in any way in their life. So I get numbness in my hands and fingers, but that's just, I don't need, they're like, you can get fusion if you want, or you can just deal with it. And they're like, would rather you deal with it. I'm like, yeah, I'll deal with it. I don't need to do anything like that. So no, I'm all good. Everything's good.
Okay. So
it was just a random weird thing. I don't remember what the move they called it, but there was a guy on either side. It was the low riders. And they these are my legs. They're supposed to pick me up, drop me a front bump, and they drop me straight down. Yeah.
And that was on a house show, like a WWE?
No, show? It was a dark match before an OVW taping.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that was way before then. Still.
Yeah, it was about it was probably 6 months before I got signed, or maybe 3 months.
So you talked about, hey, maybe I can come back. Other guys came back. So was it when you left there though? Were you done then with wrestling? Like you just
that was it. I didn't know that, but that was it. I got a job and a day job and got married and all those things that can derail a fella's dreams. No. Look, I love my time in it, and I have no regrets. The coolest thing now is introducing my sons to wrestling and showing them wrestling. So that's like a whole different, I show them like things that I grew up watching, right? I don't show them now necessarily, but that's a whole different thing where it's falling in love with it again through them. I guess that's how my dad took me to watch wrestling. I take them to watch wrestling. So it's a sort of a continuation of that process, I guess, not to get too sappy and sentimental, but that's what I love about it now is watching my kids watch it and fall in love with it.
You got to show them some of your matches, right?
No, I want them to like wrestling.
Oh, come on. You got to.
They don't want to see dads think they might have less respect for me. They're going to be like, oh, I don't have to listen to this asshole.
Now, do you want them to, how old are your boys?
I have a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, and then one on the way. I don't know.
Oh, congrats, man. One on the way. Do you ever want them to see wrestling?
Evidently, I hate money, so I just keep having kids.
Hey, we got about 30 seconds.
Yes, sir.
My kids have never seen me wrestle, but I'm going to wrestle in like 3 weeks with Rip in Seymour, Indiana, just on a little local show. Would you ever want to do that just to let your kids see you in the ring one time live?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, just didn't know. Get yourself booked, baby. Get out there.
Get booked. Let's get booked.
Get booked. Book Gavin Garrison, Jason Garrison, the professor, Fletcher, whatever your name was, FCW. Thanks for coming on. We're out of time. I didn't give Rip any time to say anything at the end, but we're going to have you back. Typically, this thing just runs out on us, but I set my timer today. We have about 5 seconds.
Yeah, big gold and a billfold, so swole that I can't get the shit closed. So I money fold and rubber band wrap, and when it pop, bitches sound like a hand clap.